This audio program by Radio AI is generated using artificial intelligence technologies. The voices you hear in this program are synthetic, and the thoughts they express are shaped through artificial intelligence-driven reasoning and iterative refinement.
Welcome along to Radio AI. This is our third deep dive, and today, well, we're tackling something kind of fundamental.
Yeah, a really deep question that maybe you haven't consciously asked yourself in this way before.
Exactly. It's this. How do we really know when we've changed?
It sounds so simple on the surface, doesn't it?
It does. But it pulls in all sorts of ideas from, philosophy, psychology, even the culture we live in.
And it's surprisingly hard to pin down, like trying to catch smoke, almost.
We're not just talking about, say, changing your job or moving house.
No, this is about deep personal transformation, that feeling or that knowledge that you aren't quite the person you were before.
So why is it so elusive? Why don't we just, feel it happening?
Well, a big part of it is just the continuity of life, isn't it? Our experience flows day to day.
Right, there's no sharp dividing line usually. You wake up, you're still...
Exactly. So change often doesn't announce itself. It kind of creeps up on you.
And then how do we notice it?
Often it's retrospective. You look back maybe months or years and compare.
Like looking at an old photo and thinking, wow, I was different then.
Uh-huh. Or maybe more powerfully, it happens when you're in a situation you've been in before.
Okay.
But your reaction is just completely different, unexpectedly different.
So the familiar situation suddenly feels unfamiliar because you've changed how you respond.
Precisely. That divergence between what you expected to feel or do based on past you and what actually happens.
Let's take an example. Someone, say, with really bad social anxiety, hated public speaking, avoided it for years.
Okay.
Then, years later, they get asked to give a presentation. And maybe surprisingly, they say yes.
And they do it.
They do it.
Yeah.
And they feel, well, maybe not perfectly comfortable, but okay. A sense of ease they never had before.
Right. And the fascinating thing is the realization often doesn't hit them during the speech.
When does it hit then?
It's often afterwards, reflecting on it, thinking, hang on, that wasn't terrifying like it used to be.
So the contrast does it. The gap between the old fear and the new reality.
Yes. That unexpected lack of fear or the presence of a new capability, it's a sort of delayed click. Oh, the old me couldn't have done that.
But even with those moments, our own minds can play tricks on us, can't they? Memory isn't straightforward.
Oh, definitely not. Memory isn't like a video recording we just replay.
What is it then?
It's more like a reconstruction. We rebuild the past each time we remember it, and that rebuilding is influenced by, well, who we are now.
Our current beliefs.
Yeah.
Our desires.
Yep. Even unconscious stuff. And this is where cognitive biases really muddy the waters.
Like what sort of biases?
Well, there's consistency bias. That's our tendency to sort of subconsciously rewrite our past selves to be more like our current selves.
So you might remember your past opinions as being closer to your current ones than they actually were.
Exactly. It makes your personal story feel more coherent, more consistent. But it can mean you seriously underestimate how much you've actually changed.
It smooths over the bumps, the shifts in direction.
It really can. And then you've got the opposite in a way. Hindsight bias.
The I knew it all along effect.
Kind of, yeah. Applied to ourselves, it can make us feel like we've changed more than we have, or that the changes were more inevitable than they felt at the time.
Wow, okay. So our internal mirror is pretty distorted then. How can we get a clearer picture if memory is so unreliable?
It's a challenge. But things like journaling can help. Creating a record over time.
Something concrete to look back on that isn't just memory.
Right. Or meditation, practices that encourage self-awareness in the present moment. Even structured self-assessment tools can provide snapshots over time.
But not everyone journals or meditates.
Yeah.
And surely our background influences how we even think about this.
Absolutely. These practices, and even the inclination to reflect deeply on the self, aren't universal. Culture plays a massive role.
How so?
Well, think about cultures that really emphasize individual self-examination. You'll find lots of personal stories about change. Narratives of transformation are quite common. But in more collectivist societies, change might be understood or valued more in terms of your relationships, your role in the group, or feedback from others.
So less focus on the internal journey, perhaps, and more on the social one?
It can be, yeah. And developmental stage matters too. A young person figuring out who they are might experience and track change very differently than an older person whose identity is deeply tied into family or community roles built over decades.
That makes a lot of sense. What about that external feedback you mentioned? From friends, family?
They can be really powerful. Sometimes you think you haven't changed much at all.
Yeah.
And then a close friend says something like, wow, you seem so much calmer these days, or you've become really generous.
And that takes you by surprise.
It totally can. And that surprise might prompt you to actually reflect and think, maybe they're right. It can reveal changes you were blind to in yourself.
It's like an external mirror showing you something unexpected. Though I guess it could be ambiguous too, right? Maybe their perception is off.
True. It's not infallible. But it's another important piece of the puzzle. It phrases a comparison.
Are there more sort of formal ways of thinking about change, like in psychology?
Yeah, there are models. The trans-theoretical model of change is a well-known one. It breaks down intentional change into stages.
Stages, like steps.
Kind of. It starts with pre-contemplation, where you're not even thinking about changing. Then contemplation, you start considering it.
Okay, thinking about it.
Then preparation, getting ready to act. Then action, actually doing the new thing. And finally, maintenance, keeping it up.
Let's use an example, like starting to exercise.
Perfect. Pre-contemplation. Exercise isn't for me. Contemplation. Maybe I should exercise. Preparation. Okay, I'll buy some running shoes, look up gym.
Action. Right. I'm actually going for runs now.
Exactly. And maintenance. Running is just part of my routine now. And often, the deep recognition of change, wow, I'm really a runner now, doesn't fully sink in until that maintenance stage.
When it feels stable, integrated.
Right. When you look back at the pre-contemplation and they seem like a different person almost.
That model seems focused on intentional change, though. Things we decide to do.
It is, largely. And intentional change often gives us clearer markers. We set goals, we track progress. It feels like we're actively building something new.
But what about changes we don't plan? The ones that just happen?
Unintentional change. That's just as real and maybe even more common. It often sneaks up on us.
How does that work?
Through things like, habituation, just getting used to things. Or implicit learning, picking things up without realizing it. Adapting to new people, new environments.
So maybe being around people with different views slowly shifts your own perspective without you consciously deciding to change your mind.
Exactly. You might only notice it later when you react differently to something or find yourself arguing a point you used to disagree with. It's only visible in hindsight.
It sounds like our emotional state must play into this too. How we're feeling when we try to assess change.
Hugely. Our mood, our affective state, definitely colors how we remember the past and how we judge our present selves.
So if I'm feeling really happy and optimistic today,
you might look back and see a story of resilience, growth, overcoming challenges. You'll focus on the evidence that supports that feeling.
And if I'm feeling down,
you might focus on perceived stagnation, times you felt stuck, maybe even times you feel you've gone backwards. The emotional lens magnifies certain aspects and diminishes others.
Wow. So the truth of our change can feel different depending on our mood on any given day.
In a subjective sense, yes. It highlights how much interpretation is involved, which leads nicely into philosophical ideas about the self.
Okay, how does philosophy view this?
Well, you've got different camps. Some perspectives, kind of essentialist ones, hold that there's a core, stable you that persists through change.
Like a foundation that stays the same even if the house built on it changes?
Sort of, yeah. The essence remains, even if attributes change. But then you have more constructivist views, which argue that the self isn't a fixed thing at all. It's more like an ongoing project, constantly being rebuilt through our experiences, actions, and narratives. There's no permanent core.
Like a garden that's always changing, with new things growing and old things dying back.
That's a good analogy. And obviously, which view you lean towards really affects how you'd even look for or recognize change. Is it a change to the self? Or is the self constituted by change?
Deep stuff. And what we count as real change must vary too, right?
Totally. Some people might judge change by external achievements, promotions, skills learned. Others prioritize internal shifts, becoming more patient, changing core values.
And we might even bend our own story a bit to make it fit.
Absolutely. That's where cognitive dissonance comes in. If our past actions or beliefs clash uncomfortably with our present selves, we might reinterpret the past to make it seem like a smoother, more logical progression towards who we are now.
Creating a coherent narrative, even if it means glossing over the messy bits.
Exactly. So what counts as real change ends up being this complex mix of your personal priorities, cultural norms, and how you frame your own life story.
This isn't just a theoretical puzzle then, is it?
Yeah.
Recognizing change, or not recognizing it, seems to have real weight.
It really does. Think about virtue ethics, the idea of cultivating yourself, becoming a better person, or existentialism, the importance of authentic self-understanding.
So if you don't recognize your own growth, maybe you miss chances for self-compassion, or you don't give yourself credit.
Precisely. And on the flip side, if you fail to notice negative changes, regressions perhaps, it could hinder your accountability, stop you from making necessary adjustments.
Okay, so self-reflection is important, but is there a danger of overdoing it, like getting too obsessed with tracking every little shift?
That is a really crucial point. Yes, there absolutely is a potential downside.
What happens then?
For some people, constantly monitoring themselves, analyzing every feeling and action for change can actually lead to increased anxiety or indecision.
Because you're always second-guessing yourself.
Maybe. Or it can just take the spontaneity out of life. If you're always observing yourself, it's hard to just be in the moment and let change happen organically.
So it's a balance then. Reflection is good, but maybe not constant surveillance.
Exactly. Finding a balance is key. Reflective practices work best when paired with openness to experience, self-awareness, and crucially, adapting them to your own personality and cultural context. What helps one person might stress another out.
So if we want to get better at noticing genuine change, what can we do? Besides falling into the trap of overanalysis.
Well, things we've touched on. Structured reflection, maybe periodic life reviews, stepping back occasionally.
Talking to people we trust.
Yes, that dialogic engagement. Getting those external perspectives can be so valuable for cutting through our own biases.
And you mentioned collective ways too.
Yeah, on a broader level, things like shared stories, community narratives, even rituals can help societies acknowledge and integrate change over time. But again, moderation and context are key.
It really sounds like recognizing personal change isn't a simple event, but an ongoing, really nuanced process.
That sums it up well. It's this fascinating interplay of self-reflection, feedback from others, the quirks of memory, cultural lenses, our shifting emotions, even our underlying philosophical assumptions about what a self actually is.
And absolute certainty is probably impossible. Our view of our past self might change again tomorrow based on new experiences.
Right. The very act of trying to recognize change becomes part of your ongoing story, your process of becoming. It's recursive.
So grappling with this, with understanding our own transformations, it's not just navel-gazing. It's tied into something much bigger.
I think so. It's part of that fundamental human quest for meaning, for understanding who we are across time, for living authentically.
Well, that gives us a lot to think about. Thank you for joining us on Radio AI for this exploration.
It's been fascinating to discuss.
We'd love to hear your own thoughts or reflections on this. Feel free to share them in the comments below.